Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hello.
I love that. The angel from heaven, huh? Okay. That's a lot to live up to. I am so grateful to get to be with you today, and I apologize for being in spirit only and with technology on the screen. Recently, I had a couple of biopsies done on my face, one on my nose and one on my lip, and it turns out that this one is cancer and this one isn't, basal cell from the sun kind of thing. And I had started to use some essential oil things that I took for the first time last night, and boy, it did. My body said no, and so I was sick through the night, and so I couldn't. I have to leave here at 6 in the morning to get to the ferry in Cookville to get over to you guys, and I just couldn't do it this morning. And so I'm very grateful for Cindy and Mark, who scrambled to get it together so that we could do this by Skype so that we could still be together. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And so I'm coming to you, it's interesting that we're talking about Emmett Fox today. Are any of you familiar with Emmett Fox?
Yes.
And it just so happens that Unity is featuring Emmett Fox and Emmett Fox writings this time. If you get the periodicals from Unity, you know that the most recent one was called The Golden Key Today, which is applying Emmett Fox's teachings to our world today. So we were just right in step with that. And the reason that I say that it's kind of timely, I have talked about other spiritual teachers in the past. I like to bring up Emmett Fox at this time because he's really good at reminding us that we have everything we need right now to deal with the world that we're living in. And I don't know about you, but the world's looking pretty interesting and a little bit wacky at this point in time. And so that reminder becomes more and more important, that we actually are prepared, that we do have what we need, that we are who we are to be present and to deal with these times. And so it seems a good idea to be reminded of what he called the Golden Key was all about. First, let me tell you just a little bit about him. Emmett Fox lived from 1886 to 1951, and he's known as a New Thought spiritual leader, and he's famous for his large divine science church services held in New York City during the Great Depression. He was born in Ireland, and his father, who died before Emmett was 10, was a physician and a member of the parliament. Emmett went to a Jesuit school and he became an electrical engineer. However, he discovered early that he had healing power, and from the time of his late teens, he studied New Thought. He attended the London meeting of the International New Thought Alliance in 1914, and he gave his first New Thought talk in Mortimer Hall in London in 1928. He went to the United States in 1931 and was selected to become the successor to James Murray as the minister of New York's Divine Science Church of the Healing Christ. Fox became immensely popular and spoke to large church audiences during the Depression, holding weekly services for up to 5,500 people. He was ordained in the Divine Science branch of New Thought. And one of the interesting things about him and his work is his secretary was the mother of one of the men who worked with Alcoholics Anonymous co-founder Bill W. And partly as a result of this connection, early AA groups often went to hear Fox. His writing, especially the Sermon on the Mount, became popular in AA, and several of the pamphlets like The Golden Keys and The 7 Main Aspects of God are also widely read in AA. Well, Emmett became a friend, he was a colleague and a friend of Charles Fillmore. And Charles Fillmore really liked Emmett's thinking and his writing. And so he asked him to put a simple pamphlet together that kind of boiled down what his thinking was, and that's how the Golden Key came to be, is Emmett wrote it for unity as a favor to Charles Fillmore. I'm going to share the Golden Key with you because there's no better way to explain it, and then we'll kind of get into what that's about. The Golden Key that Emmett Fox wrote and that Charles Fillmore asked him to share with unity is this: God is omnipotent, and we are God's image and likeness and have dominion over all things. This is the inspired teaching, and it is intended to be taken literally at its face value. The ability to draw on this power is not the special prerogative of the mystic or the saint, as is so often supposed, or even of the highly trained practitioner. Everyone has this ability. Whoever you are, wherever you may be, the Golden Key to harmony is in your hand now. This is because in scientific prayer, it is God who works and not you. You know, in unity, we have a prayer, a saying, an affirmation that says, it is not I, but the Christ within who does the work. It is God, not you, who works, and so your particular limitations or weaknesses are of no account in the process. And isn't that good news? You are only the channel through which the divine action takes place, and your treatment will be just the getting of yourself out of the way. Beginners often get startling results the first time, for all that is essential is to have an open mind and a sufficient faith to try the experiment. Apart from that, you may hold any views on religion or none. As for the actual method of working, like all fundamental things, it is simplicity itself. All you have to do is this: stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. This is the complete rule, and if only you will do this, the trouble, whatever it is, will disappear. It makes no difference what kind of trouble it is. It may be a big thing or a little thing. It may concern health, finance, a lawsuit, a quarrel, an accident, or anything else conceivable. But whatever it is, stop thinking about it and think of God instead. That is all you have to do. It could not be simpler. God could scarcely have made it simpler. And yet it never fails to work when given a fair trial. So that's the Golden Key. So if it's so darn simple, how come we have so many trials and tribulations? How come the world feels like it's such a mess? Well, if it's just so simple, why does it feel so hard? And when I was thinking about this, it's like, to me, the idea of don't focus on the thing, focus on God. It's really helpful to have a sense of God. When I say that to you, or anybody goes up to the front of the room and says, okay, it's just about God, what does that mean to you? Do you have a relationship with that which you know God, with that you call God? Are you on a first name basis with that energy? Is it something you trust? Is it the first place you go when things are challenging? Is it the first place you go when you're feeling joy? Or is it just something we talk about on Sunday morning? One of the things that I ask myself about that, this idea of God. Just turn to God. Just give it to God. Just focus on God. Don't focus on the problem. And you know, that's easy to say, but when we're dealing with a crisis, when we're dealing with a health challenge, when we're dealing with the loss of a loved one, when we're dealing with looking at what we're seeing on TV and scratching our heads and going, what is going on? What does it mean to say, don't think about that, think about God? And it might help to look at what Emmett has to say about the 7 aspects of God. What is the nature of God? How does that even apply? I mean, it's a nice idea, but is it something that's kind of airy-fairy out in the clouds? Or is it something very real and down to earth that we can apply directly to what it is that we're dealing with? Because isn't that what we have to know? Isn't that where we have to put our faith? The first main aspect of God, as Emmett states, is life. God is life. God is not just living. God does not just give life, but God is life. Where God is, life is. And one of the highest expressions of God is life is joy. Joy. Do you allow yourself to feel joy? When you came to church this morning and you saw what an incredibly beautiful morning it is, crystal clear. And oh, where we live, with the water and the mountains and the trees, did you give yourself a moment to feel that joy? Joy is a way that we can be in relationship with God. Joy. Just feeling it. Just being aware of the beauty that surrounds us. And you and I are particularly blessed, aren't we? Joy. Realizing divine life heals the sick. Animals usually respond quickly, and plants respond very quickly indeed, because they do not have the strong sense of personal egotism that most human beings do. They never make up their minds that they cannot get well, or that sickness is sent for a good purpose. Neither do they give way to discouragement, because they have not been healed faster. God is life, and divine life is a way towards healing. The opportunity, the way it comes to us, is us being aware and open to it. Does that make sense? Do you get that? Does that ring true? The next aspect is God is truth. As soon as we touch God, who is absolute, relative things disappear. To know the truth about any condition heals it. Jesus said, "And ye shall know the truth, and truth shall make you free." Do you tell yourself the truth about a situation? When you're dealing with a challenge, have you looked in the mirror and got really honest, down and honest with yourself about what's really happening there? When you're in conflict with someone, do you stop and drop into the truth? And when I say that, sometimes in conversations, especially when we're in a conflict with someone, we can have a very surface, shallow conversation. Why? Because we're scared. We go into defense. We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to hurt them. And so we might have a conversation that skims across the top. And one of the ways we can heal that is to drop into honesty, telling the truth. And you may say, well, Joanna, I don't want to be the first one to do that. And what I'm going to suggest to you is this. You have the courage and the willingness to drop into your truth and say to the other person, I'm feeling scared here. I'm feeling really scared. What you're doing is being honest, and at the same time, you're inviting the other person to do the same. Just in that honesty, you have taken the conversation to a deeper level. It's a new conversation. It's a new connection. You've made it safe to be in the conversation with your honesty. That's God coming into the space, coming through you, coming through the conversation. God is love. There is no condition that enough love will not heal. God is love. Are you feeling love? Are you feeling love for yourself? Are you feeling love for those around you? Were you feeling love for the person that didn't go when the light turned green this morning in front of you? To realize God as love is the remedy for fear. Divine love never fails, but the important thing to realize is that divine love must be in your own heart and cannot operate from outside. That love starts from within. We have to open to love for ourselves in order to be authentic love anywhere else. And for many of us, that's a big one. If you're not feeling love in your life, in your relationships, in your relationship with the world, it's time for more God. Time for more love. Let God come in as love and start with the one in the mirror. You know, that's my favorite one to talk about. There she goes again, talking about the one in the mirror. Yeah. Because that's the place where we have to open the doors and windows first, my friends. Once we do that, there's no limitations to how God can express through us. God is intelligence. When you clearly realize that this is an intelligent universe, it will make a major difference in your life. In an intelligent universe, there cannot be disharmony because all ideas must work together for common good. Neither can there be any lack. An engine which has been intelligently designed does not have any unnecessary parts, and neither are there any essential parts lacking. Don't you find that comforting, that you can call on the intelligence of God when there's something in front of you that you can't figure out? When you don't see a solution, you can call on God, and God has the vantage point at the top of the mountain that sees everything, sees all that's going on, sees all the players, sees everybody's intentions, understands it all, and can help you realize a solution that serves it all. God is soul. Soul is that aspect of God by virtue of which he is able to individualize himself. And Fox said something here I didn't realize before, and I looked it up and it was true. He says the word individual means undivided. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That individual, it comes from the Latin individus, which means undivided. Most people seems to think it suggests separateness, but actually individual means undivided. And God has the power of individualizing without breaking into parts. You are an individualization of God. You are a unique individualization of God. There's God, which is all and in all things, but God is not anywhere the same as God is through you. Do you get that? Do you know that? Nowhere in this universe, in all of its amazing complexity, simplicity, beauty, grace, power, nowhere in that universe is God expressed exactly the same as God expresses through you. So do you realize how you are an essential part of the whole? Do you understand how it is that you are loved and accepted and needed as a part of the design? Can you feel the power in that? God is spirit. Spirit is that which cannot be destroyed or damaged. It is the opposite of matter. Matter wears out, but spirit does not, because spirit is substance. You are spirit. Spirit cannot die and was never born. Your true self was never born and will never die. You are eternal, divine, unchanging spirit in your own nature. And the seventh one is God is principle. And Emmett says that this is the one that's probably least understood. God is principle, unchanging, always present, cannot be destroyed. Prayer is answered because God is principle, eternally manifest in the same way. When we pray rightly, we bring ourselves into harmony with God's law of being. Prayer does not ask God to change the laws for our temporary convenience, but it tunes us in, so to speak, with divine principle. If God were to make exceptions because we were in great difficulties, which because of his nature could never do, we should never know where we stood. If the law of gravity were occasionally suspended without notice because of a very important man had fallen off a roof, you know what would happen to the world. Think about that. If gravity was temporarily suspended because a very important person had fallen off a roof. No, it doesn't work that way. Gravity's always there. And that's a good example for us. That reminds us that God is always there. The energy of God through all these aspects is always there. The only variable is, are we listening? Are we paying attention? Are we allowing it through? Because as principle and God always being there, what's also true is God will not come in on top of us over our free will. We must choose it. We must say yes. We must open those doors and windows. It will not break the glass. We have to choose. That's consciousness. That's what it means to be human in life. That's what differentiates us from everything else, is our ability to choose. Sometimes it feels like a curse, doesn't it? But it's also our way home. It's our growth. It's our life. It's our ability to evolve and to become more. And when we don't choose, or we choose in a way that doesn't serve us, immediately we have the opportunity to choose again. There is no judgment in God. God knows who we are. We don't need to prove anything to God. We're the ones that get confused. And that's why these tools that Emmett, this writing that Emmett Fox has done, can be really useful if we allow it. It reminds us what's true of us, what always was true of us, and always will be true of us. The opportunity is for us to plug into it, is to tap into it, is to say yes to it, is to allow it. And you know, people have a lot of stuff going on right now. There's a lot going on for folks. Have you noticed? Maybe there's a lot going on for you. Have you applied God to it? Have you applied God as life? God as love? God as intelligence? God as principle? It's who we are, my friends. And it's there for us. It always was. It always will be. And wow, this is a good time to try it out. And so now if it feels comfortable, will you just kind of get settled in your seat, and if it feels okay, close your eyes and maybe take a couple of deep breaths. And if you're okay with a guided image, since I'm coming to you as spirit today, anyway, I'll suggest an image to you. And I'll suggest to you that you open your hand and that there's a golden key there. Can you see it? There's a gold key. And it's there, and it's always there. It's a part of you. The only requirement is that you open your hand and make contact with it. Can you let the energy of that golden key through you? Breathing, allowing it through you, letting it unlock your power, your strength, your intelligence, the ability to heal, to forgive, to begin again. The ability to see beyond appearances. To remember that God, that love, that life, that soul, that spirit is a part of all of it. That when what you see in front of you doesn't make sense, or is scary, or is painful, or causes you anger or fear, that you can call forth the God, the love, the life, the spirit in the midst of it. And all things are possible. Maybe there's someone in particular who you know could use this reminder of who they truly are right now, that they hold a golden key right now in the midst of whatever they're going through. And if you'd like, feel free to say their name aloud right now so we can hold them with you. And there may be those there in our beloved spiritual community. Nora. And whoever you know who's going through a time of change, a time of growth, a time of healing, a new beginning. We hold that key with them the golden key, reminding them that they have all things possible through God in the midst of these circumstances. We hold Reverend Larry and his family, who's made the choice not to come to the Unity of Bremerton at this time. We're grateful for what he brought. We bless him and his family. And we understand that God, as intelligence, as love and life, as spirit and soul, is working through this situation. And as one door closes, it opens another door, another window. That if it's the highest good for Reverend Larry not to come, it's also the highest good for Unity of Bremerton. Because highest good cannot conflict. Because we're all one. So we trust the process, bless the process, and open the doors and windows for the highest good to unfold. For the opportunity to be reminded of the truth of us in the midst of us. We are grateful, and so it is. Amen.